Continuing on from medulla oblongata, superiorly to the pons, and now finally superior to that is your midbrain. The midbrain is going to be the most superior of the three regions of your brainstem. From here, we actually get into the brain itself. So some structures, the cerebral peduncles. Now be careful, this is cerebral, not cerebellar. The cerebral peduncles are motor tracts that are on the anterior side of the brainstem. So we're bringing motor information down on the anterior side. We then have the cerebral aqueduct. The cerebral aqueduct is going to be deep inside of the midbrain. It's going to be a fluid-filled space, hence aqueduct. The term aqueduct usually refers to a structure that carries water. In this case, we're carrying cerebral spinal fluid, connecting the third and fourth ventricles. Now, while we can't see the cerebral peduncles, we can see the cerebral aqueduct. So in this image, right here, this channel is going to be the cerebral aqueduct. It's going to allow cerebral spinal fluid from the third ventricle here to travel to the fourth ventricle right here. So you're going from the third to the fourth ventricle, allowing the flow of cerebral spinal fluid. We then have the corpora quadrigemna. Now think about the prefix here, quad. Quad means four. The corpora quadrigemna are four dome-like protrusions coming off the posterior side of the midbrain. You have the top two referred to as the superior colliculi. Now, these superior colliculi are going to be visual reflex centers. The two on the bottom, the inferior colliculi, are going to be auditory reflex centers. So that means the top two are visual, the bottom two are auditory. Together, both the superior and the inferior colliculi make up the corpora quadrigemna. So here we're looking at an anterior view of the brainstem. This down here is looking at more of the medulla. We then have the pons region right here. And what we're focusing on up here is the midbrain region. What you will see is each one of these four dome-like structures here, those are your corpora quadrigemna. The top two are the superior colliculi, or colliculus plural, and the bottom two are the inferior colliculi, or colliculus. So superior, inferior colliculi making up the corpora quadrigemna. Now if we start heading a little bit deeper inside, we have the midbrain nuclei, the substantia nigra. Now the substantia nigra is this structure and that structure. You'll notice it's deep to the cerebral peduncle. Again, cerebral, not cerebellar. So it's deep to the cerebral peduncle. It's going to have higher levels of melanin, hence why it looks a little bit darker in pigmentation. And while we haven't gotten the basal nuclei yet, keep this in mind that this substantia nigra can actually function to inhibit the basal nuclei. So kind of keep that there as we get to that point later. Now, one disorder that's paired with that substantia nigra is going to be Parkinson's disease. In the case of Parkinson's disease, the dopamine releasing neurons, so the neurons that are supposed to release dopamine just don't really function as well. They're starting to be broken down. They're degenerating. As they keep degenerating, that means there's less and less dopamine being produced by the substantia nigra. That leads to a problem with voluntary movement. It becomes more and more difficult to trigger these voluntary movements, which means that the individual trying to move, they just can't move as much as they'd want to. So you have less and less movement the further this disorder progresses, unfortunately. So in the case of Parkinson's, you end up with too little movement as this keeps progressing. So substantia nigra, dopamine producing, degrading, therefore less and less movement moving throughout. Moving on with more of the midbrain nuclei, you're looking at the red nucleus. Now the red nucleus are deep the substantia nigra, so right here and right here. Now the red nuclei, they look red because they have a rich blood supply. So plenty of blood means they have the reddish tone to that. They're helping to maintain muscle tone, specifically helping to deal with posture of your body. So those red nuclei are helping to deal with posture and muscle tone. Now, before we had the actual peduncle, we had the cerebral peduncle. Now this is the cerebellar peduncle. So right here, that highlighted in red, that is the cerebellar peduncle. It's the superior cerebellar peduncle. That means we've gone through all three links now. The three different links for the cerebellum. You have the superior cerebellar peduncle, the one highlighted in red. That's linking the midbrain to the cerebellum. You have the inferior cerebellar peduncle. That was linking the medulla to the cerebellum. And then you had the middle cerebellar peduncle, linking the pons to the cerebellum. So based on their orientation in the brainstem, there's the superior, middle, and inferior cerebellar peduncles. Only two cranial nerves. We have cranial nerve number 3, which is the oculomotor nerve. We then also have cranial nerve number 4, which is the trochlear nerve. Both of them originating off of the midbrain. So two cranial nerves originating here off the midbrain. So the midbrain, a couple structures of the nuclei, looking at the different peduncles, as well as some basic functionality of that midbrain. So from the medulla to the pons to the midbrain, we're moving our way up into the brain itself.